What are the pros and cons when you are moving to Georgia or thinking about moving to Georgia? Well, 2 years ago, when I personally just relocated to the state of Georgia, I made this video, and a lot has changed since then. And what are my new pros and cons of living in Georgia? Are there changes or is it still the same? Let's check it out. What's up and welcome back, you beautiful people, to a new video. My name is Mischa Thompson, your favorite Warner Robins real estate agent with The Real Broker. And as I mentioned, I made a video about the pros and cons of living in the state of Georgia 2 years, maybe a little longer ago. And if you haven't watched that, I encourage you to check that out after this video. It tells you my pros and cons of living in Georgia when I actually first moved to the state. So now I have lived in the state of Georgia for a while, and maybe my point of view has changed a little bit. Who knows, but we're gonna find out. I also know that a lot of people might see those pros and cons a little bit different, but keep in mind, those are pros and cons from someone who moved from another state, from the Midwest to Georgia, and has lived here for a while. So there are maybe pros and cons that locals who have been here their whole life don't see that way at all. So number 5 of the cons is the humidity, and that will probably not change from the other video because I tried. Sorry people, I really tried to get used to the humidity here in Middle Georgia, and I cannot. It's just not possible. There's no way for me to adjust. And if you are from a state that has subtropical weather, you might don't see that as con. But if you never experienced the heat and the humidity combination together, making you sweat for no reason, then this might be an issue for you. And it depends where you are at in Georgia, of course. Further north in the mountains, the humidity is not as bad. In Atlanta, it's already pretty bad because the city itself contracts all the heat and humidity and doesn't let it out. So within the city is pretty humid as well. Here in Middle Georgia and further south, the humidity is just kicking you a butt. You or sweating for no reason, as I said. But even though the humidity is a con, the weather itself in Georgia probably is going to make it on the pros of living in this beautiful state. And a lot of people, when searching for Georgia, have that question. Does Georgia have a high humidity? And yes, it does. Even though Forbes ranks Georgia only on number 17 of the most humid states, number 1 is Alaska. They don't have the heat that we do. And number 2 is Florida, and we all know Florida is super humid, but they at least in some parts have the ocean breeze, and that makes a big difference. Number 4 of the cons will always be a con. It's the gnats, and they're not all over Georgia per se. I mean, you got sand gnats on the beaches. They kind of bite you like chiggers and it itches, but they don't fly around. And then you got the gnats here in Middle Georgia. Further north, they are not that big of an issue because we do have that gnat line that pretty much cuts Georgia in half, and then everything south of that gnat line is horrible. But here in Middle Georgia, I sometimes feel mowing my lawn, sitting on the mower, I feel like Jim Carrey in the movie Me, Myself, and Irene when he sits on the motorcycle and get hit by all those flies, and then you see him smile with all those dead flies in his face. That's how I literally feel sometimes mowing the lawn. So therefore, the gnats will always be a con here in Middle Georgia, especially. Number 3 of the cons list are the bugs. And I know a lot of people will say, hey, you could put the gnats into the bugs list because they are insects and considered bug. But here's the deal. I personally think that gnats are a different kind of breed and they deserve their own con. But nevertheless, bugs are a con. If you are not used to giant palmetto bugs that look like, I mean, triple the size of regular cockroaches, and then they give them the sweet name water bugs, so it is not as creepy, then that's an issue. On top of that, you got flying fleas, you got ticks like everywhere else, of course, and you got a bunch of different spiders. There are spiders everywhere, and all those different variants of roaches and flying, stinging, and biting insects, wasps, hornets, carpenter bees, regular bees, mosquitoes, and even though the mosquito is the state bird of Florida, it could also be the state bird of Middle Georgia. Therefore, that is a con, definitely. The only thing you could do is good pest control to keep all those creepy crawlers and flyers out of your house. Number 2 on the list is pollen. And yes, I had pollen in my video 2 years ago because it is an issue. If you have problems with allergies, Georgia still sucks. I mean, the peak season for pollen is March, April, but it can go all the way into early summer. And honestly, it doesn't really matter. If you have problems with allergies, you got problems pretty much all year long until it cools down significantly in the winter, and then it's not as bad. But throughout spring, summer, and fall, you have issues if you have allergies. And therefore, pollen suck, and that is a big con for everyone having allergies. And I know that there are people out there who have no allergies and no problems at all. And hey, good for you. Georgia is amazing, and this is not a con for you. But for everyone else who has problems with allergies, this is a con. Number one of the cons is the traffic. The traffic in Georgia is horrible. It hasn't changed over the last 2 years since I moved here. It's just horrible. It seems like Georgia has been growing and growing, which is good. The economic has been thriving, but they failed to extend and to widen out their traffic network and public transportation network. So traffic really sucks. And if you ever been in Atlanta and you ever drove through Atlanta, you know that Atlanta sucks traffic-wise. I mean, this is one of the most congested cities still. Even though they put a lot of money into public transportation, it is still not enough to make it better. And the connectivity between cities further south and cities further north is just not great. So public transportation is not really working here. And traffic on the streets, therefore, is amazingly horrible. And it doesn't look like it's gonna get any better soon. So if you hate traffic, then Georgia might not be for you. But I gotta tell you, I still love Georgia. I still do, and I have pros, but traffic is just horrible, people. I mean, the state of Georgia, please do something. I mean, expand the traffic network so those highways and streets are not as congested anymore. We do have a lot of through traffic from every state to Florida, especially on 75. I mean, that sucker is always packed. So we need to do something to get that congestion out of the way. So traffic is definitely a con, and Georgia has a lot of work to do to get that figured out. So hopefully they will within the next 20 years or so. Let's move over to the pros. And I can honestly tell you, when I did my video 2 years ago, I hated the state of Georgia. I hated moving here. I didn't like it at all. Moving from Missouri over to the state of Georgia was a culture shock, and I absolutely did not want to stay here. But the people in the state of Georgia made me change my mind. That is one thing that really changed. I now love the state of Georgia. You need to give it a little bit of time. You need to get used to the state and the people, and then you will love it here. I do love it here. So thank you, Georgia, and thank you, Georgians, all the people I met over the last 2 years. You made me change my mind from hating the state to actually loving it. Let's start with the pro number 5, which is the growing economy. And the Georgia economy has been thriving. I know that there are gonna be some haters who say, oh no, there are no jobs. And that's just not true. Factually and statistically, Georgia has an amazingly growing economy. More and more companies are moving to the state of Georgia. And we already had a bunch of Fortune 500 companies that were located in Georgia. Delta, Coca-Cola, Home Depot, and so on. But more companies are moving to Georgia because it's cheaper for them. And the good thing is, when it's cheaper for them and they move over to Georgia, it brings more jobs for Georgians. So the growing economy is definitely a plus. And I did a video about the EV, electric vehicle manufacturer Rivian, actually moving one of their biggest plants right outside of Atlanta, creating hundreds of jobs. So not only is Rivian moving, a lot of other companies are moving to Georgia because it's more lucrative for them, and then they can offer more jobs to people living here. And not only those, but movie industry, music industry is booming in Georgia. I mean, Georgia is pretty much the Hollywood of the East Coast when it comes to the movie industry. A lot of movies, TV series are actually filmed and produced in Georgia, and then a lot of music artists are actually from Atlanta and Georgia in general. So the economy is thriving, which creates a bunch of jobs down the road for people here in Georgia. So pro, Georgia's economy is thriving. Number 4 of the pros is the cost of living, and I know that there are gonna be some people out there saying, oh, Georgia is not that cheap, it had changed over the last 2 years. Well, it has changed over the last 2 years in every single state. Inflation, house prices. But generally speaking, Georgia is still cheaper than other states. Georgia's cost of living is still around 20% cheaper than the national average. That's a lot. 20% is a lot. And especially when it comes to healthcare and groceries, Georgia is way cheaper than the national average. And then on top of that, affordable housing. When you move to Georgia, you still get more bang for your buck. Yes, housing prices went up like everything else, but compared to other states, people, Georgia will still get you a nicer house for your money. And more people are able to afford quality housing in Georgia than in other states. Therefore, cost of living, housing, groceries, healthcare, even transportation, Georgia is still cheaper than the national average by 20%. Therefore, this is definitely a pro if you're thinking about living or moving to the state of Georgia. Number 3 of the pros is lots to do. I mean, the state of Georgia has enormous amounts of activities you can do. From hiking, going to festivals, they got mountains, they got beaches, they got canyons. There is a lot. Museums, parks, all that good stuff. If you are going out and not just sitting at home watching TV, then you can explore the state of Georgia, and there are endless opportunities for you and your family to go somewhere and see something new every week. And another good thing about the state of Georgia is so centrally located that it's pretty easy to go to Florida, to go to Alabama, to go to South and North Carolina, to go to Tennessee and visit the Smoky Mountains. There is just a lot. And Georgians are actually, I think, the best people when it comes to festivals. There's so many festivals everywhere. Food truck festival, fairs, and they know how to party. I can tell you that. But Georgia has lots of activities everywhere out there, from young to old and old to young. There is something for you. You just gotta get it out of your house. And as I mentioned in the cons, the weather is actually the pro number 2. I mean, the weather is amazing. Take away that humidity in Georgia would be perfect weather-wise, but nevertheless, even with the humidity, the weather is great. You have a long summers, sometimes a little bit too long, but you also have very mild and short winters. Here in Middle Georgia, if you ever see a snowflake, everything is closed, but you probably won't. I mean, you probably have to go up way north to see snow, and the climate, subtropical climate, it is always pretty nice. But here in Middle Georgia, weather is just great. I mean, fall and spring are so amazing. We're now in fall, and I can tell you, it feels amazing in the morning. It feels amazing during the day, and it feels amazing during night. So fall is probably my favorite season here in Georgia. Nevertheless, the weather is just great, and it's a huge pro for people thinking about moving here to Georgia. And my personal favorite pro, and my pro number 1, is the people. The people make the difference here. The people made me like the state, love the state. I mean, they changed the way I thought about the state of Georgia. They made me overthink my narrow-headed thoughts about the state when I actually moved here and absolutely hated it. They made me love the state of Georgia. It's the people. There are sports fanatics. So, I mean, there's always something going on with sports. I mean, Little League, college football, national football, baseball, soccer. I mean, they're just into sports. They're another breed when it comes to sports and hospitality. The friendliness of the people here in Georgia is just amazing. I rarely come across any rude people, honestly. More friendly and helpful people. One thing though you probably have to get used to when you are coming from another state is they are very laid back. They are so laid back that sometimes appointments don't really mean anything. So if you call a plumber and the plumber tells you gonna be there tomorrow at 10, it might be more 11 than 10. But other than that, laid backness could be also a good thing on the weekends. Not many people bugging you can just chillax. But definitely the people are my number one pro here in Georgia. I love him. So Georgia, thank you very much. Georgians, thank you very much. I appreciate that, and therefore you are my pro number one. Well folks, this was my updated pros and cons video of living or moving to Georgia. I hope you enjoyed it. Put in the comments below what you like or you don't like about the States. I definitely had the urgency or the feeling of urgency to do a new video because I deeply feel different about the state and the people now than I did 2 years ago. And some things changed, some things didn't. I hope you still enjoyed the video. And if you want to see more about the pros and cons or whatever here in Georgia, put that in the comments below. I want to hear what you have to say. I'll see you in the next one.